On the night everything broke, the rain came down like it had a grudge. Mara Kline sat in the passenger seat of their sedan, fingers locked together so tight her knuckles burned white. The windshield wipers fought the storm in frantic arcs, but the road ahead still looked like a smear of black glass. Beside her, Thomas drove with both hands clamped on the wheel, jaw set, eyes sharp with the kind of focus she had only seen once before, during the early days of their marriage, when money was short and pride was shorter. Welcome to Shadows of Justice, where crime meets compassion. If you are new here, don't forget to hit the subscribe button, like, comment, and share. For returning viewers, thanks for sticking to the channel. The man appeared out of nowhere. One moment there was only wet asphalt and the hum of tires. The next, a figure stumbled into the headlights, arms raised, too late. The impact was a sickening thud that seemed to echo inside Mara's bones. The car lurched, skidded, then stopped. Silence rushed in, thick and unbearable. "Oh, God," Mara whispered. Her breath came in short, panicked bursts. Tom, you hit him." Thomas stared straight ahead, chest heaving. For a second, she thought he hadn't heard her. Then he opened the door and stepped into the rain. Mara followed, slipping on the slick pavement. The man lay twisted near the shoulder of the road, blood darkening the water that pooled beneath him. His eyes were open, unfocused, mouth working soundlessly. "He's alive," Mara said, hope flaring wild and desperate. "We need to call for help." Thomas knelt, his hands hovering, then pressing against the man's chest as if trying to hold something back. "He jumped out," Thomas said, voice shaking. I couldn't stop." "Call an ambulance," Mara pleaded. "Please." The man's hand twitched, grasping at Thomas's sleeve. In the distance, headlights appeared, another car, approaching too fast. Something in Thomas snapped. Mara would replay the next seconds for the rest of her life. Thomas's eyes flicking to the oncoming lights, his breath hitching, the sudden, terrible resolve. He shoved the man back down when he tried to rise, hard. The head struck asphalt with a sound that ended everything. The approaching car slowed, then passed, its driver barely glancing at the scene. The rain kept falling. Mara fell to her knees. "What did you do? Tom, what did you do?" Thomas stood there, drenched, shaking. "He was going to get up. They would have blamed me. We'd lose everything." "You killed him," Mara whispered. Thomas turned to her then, eyes wild with fear and something darker. "No, it was an accident. You saw it. You'll tell them it was an accident." Sirens wailed somewhere far away, or maybe it was only in her head. Mara nodded. That nod became the first brick in a prison she would live inside for 15 years. They said it was a tragic hit-and-run turned delayed discovery. The man was identified as Daniel Ruiz, a night-shift warehouse worker, walking home to save bus fare. The police asked questions. Mara answered them with careful, practiced calm. It was raining. He stepped into the road. They didn't see him in time. Thomas was charged with negligent homicide, not murder. The judge cited poor visibility, no prior record, 3 years probation, fines, mandatory counseling. People shook their heads and called it a sad accident. Mara smiled when expected. She cried when it was appropriate. She stood beside her husband, hand in hand, as neighbors brought casseroles and sympathy. Inside, something rotted. Sleep abandoned her. When it came, it dragged the sound of Daniel's skull against pavement into her dreams. She began volunteering at the local hospital, first to keep busy, then because the proximity to pain felt like penance. She learned to recognize the look in patients' eyes, the one that said, "This wasn't supposed to happen." Thomas changed, too. He grew quieter, more controlling. He drank at night, the bottle clinking softly against the counter as Mara lay awake, counting breaths.
Sometimes he would reach for her, desperate and rough, as if trying to anchor himself to something solid. Other times, he wouldn't touch her for days.
"You're the only one who knows," he told her once, voice thick with drink. "You're the only one who stayed." The words sounded like gratitude. They felt like chains. 5 years passed, then 10. Mara became a nurse. She was good at it. Steady hands, gentle voice. Families trusted her. Doctors relied on her. She learned how to sit with grief without flinching, how to be present in the worst moments of other people's lives. At night, she sat with her own. The Ruiz family haunted her in quieter ways. A name on a chart, a news article she never opened, a memorial photo she once saw by accident, Daniel smiling beside an older woman with tired eyes. His mother. The realization hit Mara with physical force. He didn't just die, he was taken. Thomas avoided the subject whenever it brushed close. "Don't dig up the past," he warned. "We survived, that's what matters." But survival began to feel like theft. The first crack came in year 12. Thomas lost his job after showing up drunk. He grew volatile, accusing Mara of judging him, of thinking she was better. One night, during an argument, he grabbed her wrist hard enough to bruise. "You wouldn't exist without me," he snarled. "I protected us." Mara looked at the purple blooming on her skin and felt something settle into place. "No," she said quietly. "You protected yourself." She slept on the couch that night. The next morning, she packed a bag and left. Thomas didn't stop her. Freedom didn't come with relief. It came with clarity and terror. Mara started seeing a therapist, then a priest, then no one at all. The truth pressed against her chest until breathing felt like betrayal. She began writing letters she never sent. To Daniel, to his mother, to the version of herself who had nodded in the rain. On the 15th anniversary of Daniel's death, Mara drove to the police station. Her hands shook as she sat across from Detective Laura Chen, a woman with sharp eyes and a voice that didn't rush. "I lied." The words tasted like blood and air. "My husband killed a man. I watched him do it." Chen didn't interrupt. She listened as Mara spoke for 2 hours, unraveling the night, the shove, the lie, the years of silence. When Mara finished, she felt hollowed out and strangely light. "You know what this means," Chen said gently. "There will be consequences." "I know," Mara replied. "I should have faced them a long time ago." The case was reopened, evidence re-examined, old photographs studied with new eyes. Thomas was arrested, this time for second-degree murder. At the trial, Mara testified. She didn't look at Thomas as she spoke. She looked at the jury, at the judge, at Daniel Ruiz's mother sitting in the front row, hands folded around a worn photograph. "I was afraid," she said, voice steady, "but fear doesn't excuse what I did. I helped kill him again every day I stayed silent." Thomas was convicted, sentenced to 25 years. When it was over, Mara approached Daniel's mother in the hallway. Her legs trembled so badly she thought she might fall. "I'm sorry," she said, the words small and insufficient. "I can't undo what I did, but I wanted you to know the truth." The older woman studied her face for a long moment. Then she nodded once, slowly. "I lost my son," she said. "You lost 15 years. We both live with that." It wasn't forgiveness, but it was something like mercy. Mara didn't become a hero. Newspapers didn't praise her courage. Some called her brave, others called her complicit. Both were right. She kept working as a nurse. She began speaking quietly to students about ethics, about the cost of silence.
She visited a small memorial on the side of a road when it rained, standing with her hands open, letting the water soak through her clothes. Redemption didn't arrive all at once. It came in fragments, in truth told, in harm acknowledged, in a life no longer built on a lie. Mara learned that you don't erase the past by hiding it. You face it. And then, slowly, painfully, you build something honest in its place. This is Shadows of Justice, where crime meets compassion. Subscribe for more emotional true crime and redemption storytelling, where every scar tells a story worth hearing.